Hi, I'm Peter from Coffee Parts and I'm here today with Savarino from Anfim Australia looking at this, the Anfim Pratica. So the Pratica. This came out, I believe it was around 2018, as a collaboration from the Henro Group, which is Malconic, Anfim and Ditting.
Yep.
And they brought this out to really fill what they thought was a gap in their range. Can you tell me more about this machine?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. This was a first experience after, the first full experience after Henro had invested in Anfim. This grind in particular was interesting in how it came about. They were looking obviously to introduce new grinders in the Henro and the Anfim range, and they took a different approach. They which included brand gatherings.
Yep.
So basically, all the distributors around the world, met up,
Yep.
and just gave a lot of input of what they wanted, where they saw a gap in their market, what kind of features they wanted. So that came in together, and we've got the Anfim Pratica.
Yeah, it's funny because I have noticed between the range some similarities. Obviously, I've always liked this fork and it's been seen in the Malconics and a few others. So it is kind of nice to see iterations of the best bits in different parts of their range and brand portfolio. So it's really cool.
Look, with the cradle holder,
Yeah.
that was the first thing we asked for.
Yeah.
Even with the rest of the Anfim range,
Yeah.
we knew it worked really nicely.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that we liked about it, with being hands-free in grinding.
So with it being hands-free in grinding, but let's take a step back. So we're gonna look at this machine, what it is, who's it for, and then kind of dive into, I guess, the setting up, the menu, and how to clean it, clump crush it, etc. So first things first, it's a 65mm hardened steel blade machine, and it's got relatively low retention, is at 3.6 grams,
Yep.
thereabouts. So really is kind of on the smaller side of blades, but more, what would you call it for?
Look, we always try to put it as a solution for, a 20 to 25 kilo account.
Yeah.
Other larger accounts might want to use it for their singles,
Yep.
that are doing a little bit of volume.
Yep.
Some larger accounts do quite a bit of black coffee in singles, so
Yep.
it's a great coffee for that, having that lower retention.
Yep. And even if you're kind of pushing it, the fan on the back here does help keep it cool, so it can handle a little bit of volume even though it's rated for 20 to 25.
Yeah, it's actually an active fan.
Yep.
So basically, the fan on this, as
Yep.
opposed to the others, it's actually mounted to the base of the motor.
Yep.
So as the motor's active, so is the fan.
Okay.
It's a little bit different.
I actually didn't know that. One thing I've kind of liked across the whole range is a dosage spout. You can pull it out and clean it really easily, and you can adjust the angle so the coffee is coming to the center of the portafilter. Makes a big difference when you're pulling the portafilter out and trying to compress it. So it just easily pulls out and pushes back in. And when you do pull it out, you can easily change the height just by moving this little plastic thing here.
Yeah, you're changing the angle of the spout and where it's propelling the coffee into the group handle.
Yeah.
Look, like anything, little nuances like that saves the barista time and energy in how they're preparing their group handle. So it's a good feature.
And talking about preparing that group handle, it is made to run up to 6 programming modes.
Yep.
And you can really, compared to other machines, it's cool that you can change the picture of the program to kind of give you a quicker visual indication.
Yeah. So basically, it's up to the barista and how they want to display their coffees, what they're serving. So anything from a dosing cup
Yep.
to a naked handle, singles and doubles, and just programming it so when they need to change handles,
Yeah.
they can actually be guided by the icon and flick across really quickly.
So should we dive into the menu and see just how easy it is to kind of adjust both your time and I guess your display settings? So with the menu, you've got up to 6 positions. Obviously you can run less, you can hide a couple. And the reason is you might be running a single, but you might want to have 2 different doubles, call it an 18 gram and a 20 gram. You might have your naked at 22 grams, and you might have your dosing cup. So it really does give you a fair bit of flexibility when some other grinders only have single and double, kind of, it's a bit more limiting. So depending on which one you are, but if you go just say into setting 2, which we have a dosing cup, and you click into it, the number should flash, and then you can just dial by 1/10 of a second up and down. So when you're happy with it, just click into it and it's set. Once you've set that, if you actually did want to go further and just say change that icon, you could click into it twice and you go into the menu. And once you're in the menu, you go into the recipes. So go into the recipe you want. So you can either go into the time, or you can go into the icon, click that icon, and then you could change that icon look. We'll leave it in the dosing cup. Double tap that button and out you go back. So it's really easy, just single tap, change the time, double tap, go into the programming mode, into recipes, and you can adjust the icons there. Obviously going through the menu, you could do your break functions and a few others to really dial in how you want this grinder to perform. So from that perspective, you now have, in this case, your dosing cup. If you went through, we have here a basket which could represent a naked. We've got your single, we've got your double, and it's quite easy. You also have the function number 1 being, I guess, a grind on demand, or while the button's activated. So for, I guess, a free pour style.
A little bit of a purge,
yeah,
or free pour, or free grinding.
And because this is a 3.6 retention grinder, give or take, you could just purge if you haven't used that grinder for quite a while, effectively 3.6.
Yeah.
I tend to set up sometimes a 3.6 as one of the items, so I'm not purging too much or too little, kind of to get it really neat.
Why not program it?
Yeah, sometimes it is easier. With the dialing in, it's a very simple adjustment here where you're just moving that paddle, and it's stepless grind, so you can really dial into where you need to be.
Yep, and it's got the collar lock at the back here, so as soon as you found your position, just lock it through, purge through, and you're ready to go again.
Yeah, kind of cool and kind of bad. I'm always worried about a little kid at the back just playing with it, but I don't think they would notice.
Oh look, you know what, cafes need to have good behaving customers.
Yeah, I was probably that little kid once upon a time. So we're just gonna grind out a double shot now, kind of to see the quality of the grind, how fast it is, how loud it is, or quiet. Kind of see what.
Go for it.
Actually pretty quick. Remembering this is a 65mm grinder, so we're talking about, on a cafe perspective, quite an entry level size. That was pretty cool, pretty quick, pretty quiet.
You actually notice even, you know, visually the distribution of the coffee.
Yep.
You know, it's nicely heaped. You know, there's no spillage.
Yep.
We've adjusted the angle of the spout. This is where those little nuances gets the barista going a little bit faster, not having to prepare their handle before they have to tamp as much.
Yep.
It's just a really nicely delivered coffee.
Talking about handle with the cradle, and that is one of my favorite features. It's easily to adjust the height. So if you did have a different portafilter, you could easily adjust.
Yeah, keep in mind when we do use a
Dosing cup.
It's a single activation, so you're not having to hold the cup.
Yep.
So even if you just want to tap the button and lower the cup,
Yep.
it will fall into the handle without having to having to hold it there.
Because it has become a lot more popular too. Dosing cups have really kind of grown in popularity.
Yeah, everyone's going for accuracy, so it helps you to manage that accuracy, and also with workflow, having that one dosing cup in advance, waiting, swapping out another dosing cup, you can get a really fast workflow.
Yeah, I always thought that would sell a certain number of dosing cups and then they'll stop selling, but they just keep ramping up. It's crazy how many of these little stainless dosing cups we sell. And now what does the cleaning of this machine look like? From getting rid of the beans to the clump crusher, what would be your, I guess, daily and weekly cycles?
Yeah, look, Hammer and Anfim really looked at this. It was a really big point on the checklist. So making it easy. So we've already said about the spout and removing it, getting rid of any oils and grinds that are residual on the spout itself. We said we're not holding a lot of grind. So grinding out, you know, closing your hopper and grinding out for the end of night clean is quite quick. Removing the hopper, we've got a safety on it, so it's going to shut off the grinder. getting into the silicon and metal clump crusher
Yep.
is just from the top,
Yep.
clicks out and in, quite easy. And also the burrs.
Yeah.
The burrs are removing the top burrs,
Yep.
and it's maintaining the positioning because the adjustment
Is on the bottom burr.
on the bottom burrs. So it's actually quite an easy process.
What I like about that on this, and actually any grinder that does work that way, is when you're dialing back in, you might obviously adjust the next day the coffee slightly, but you're not really wasting that coffee dialing in and add things that minimize wastage or environmentally friendly when it comes to either wasting beans or the packaging, or even on the coffee machine, the temperature or stability of the water. Like, I just don't like wastage when it comes to things that are kind of like precious resources.
Especially now with coffee bean prices and whatnot, and it's any savings is a good saving.
Yeah, it's not just the price. For me, it's even like thinking about the poor people actually picking the beans, drying the beans. If you start thinking about the whole chain, all the touch points, anything that involves less wastage, whatever that looks like to people, I think is a good thing. One last thing that's actually pretty cool, it's simple and almost irrelevant, is that it does have the ability to clip the notes here. So if you had this facing, just say, the customer, they can know exactly what beans, if you got a recipe card or if you got information on that particular bean, kind of gives it a cool narrative or story and visual from the customer's perspective. Or the baristas, if you've got multiple baristas, so they kind of know what's in each hopper. They should, but like it really does help.
Yeah, it's a great point of sale. The engagement between the customer and the barista, and actually understanding what they're drinking.
Yeah.
It's a good point to have it on your hopper.
Yeah.
Or with your cheeky customers,
Yeah.
you can actually do not touch my grind adjustment.
Yeah, that would make me chart. It's like the wet paint sign. It kind of works in reverse.
Yeah.
Sal, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been awesome getting to know more about this machine with you. And obviously we've worked with each other for the last few years.
Thanks, Pedro, man. Awesome to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to show off the Pratica.
Really enjoyed it. If you have any questions on the Anfim, any of the Anfim range actually, for me or Sal, hit us up in the comments below. And like always, if this video has brought you value, please hit that thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Thank you again, and thank you, Sal.